Okay, class, good morning to all. Okay, like usual, I want to do some sound check. Make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me, class? Loud and clear.
Yes.
Yes,
Wei Xiang, thank you. Jiali, thank you. Okay, very good. Right. Okay, thank you for your response. Okay, and then secondly, my display. I'm sharing you the display, my presentation. Can you see it?
yes.
Also can, eh? Okay, very good.
Can.
All right, good. Okay, class. So we continue the lesson for today. Okay, if you can see my presentation, and as usual, the recording, the class for today is being recorded and attendance will be taken. All right, it is like usual lah. Normally I will do that. Okay. So we continue with our lesson today. So 1.2, this is the second subtopic in chapter 1. There are only two subtopic, right? There are only two subtopic in chapter number 1, biodiversity. So if you still remember in subtopic 1.1, biodiversity, you already learned about the diversity of organism. Okay, and then you also already learned about the meaning of biodiversity. All right. And also we already learned about what is the importance of the biodiversity to us. Okay, there are a few important that you need to remember. And then the last one in in subtopic 1.1, we already learned about the management of biodiversity, as what we call the management of biodiversity, right? So now it's 1.2. We're going to learn about the classification of organism. Okay, classification of organism. Right, the classification of organism. So direct to the point, what are the classification of animal? As you know, organism, okay, referring to what? Animal and plant. But in chapter number 1, we are going to learn about the what we call the biodiversity in animal and in plant, not include human, yeah. All right, because we are all, there is we're going to classify, or we want to learn about the animal and plant only. All right, so okay, why we need to classify the organism? Okay, if you can see here, there are two main group of organisms. There are animal and plants, not include us as human, because we are in the higher order or the higher being at top of the food chain. So we cannot consider us in the biodiversity. Okay, so in this topic, we are going to learn about the organism that are two parts, animal and plant. All right, so next one, the animal and plant can be classified further into smaller group based on their common and different characteristic. Okay, this is why we need to classify the organism based on their what? Number one, based on their common. Common mean what are the same characteristic or same physical, what we call, we observe the organism and then we find out what is the common or the same characteristic of the organism. Okay, that's why that is the number one. Why we need to classify. Classify mean what? We want to group the organism into its own group. Okay. Number one, common and different characteristic. Okay. Number one is common characteristic, and then number two is the different characteristic. Okay. That's why we need to what we call classify the organism into what we call classification, right? So the next one is classification of animal. You need to understand this. In animal, we can classify into two things, okay? One is we call vertebrates and one is invertebrates. So what is invertebrate? You just remember vertebrate is the animal without what? Without backbone. Okay, and then what is the vertebrates? Vertebrate is the animal. First, we go into animal with backbone. Okay, and this is what we call by invertebrates and vertebrates. All right. So we go one by one. This is the first classification, yeah, the classification of animal first. Animal first, All right. With backbone is vertebrates. Without backbone is what we call invertebrates. Okay. So number one, we're going to learn about what is the vertebrates. Invertebrates, Okay. Like I said earlier, invertebrates are animals without a backbone, and then we can further classify invertebrates into several characteristics. Okay, the first one is without leg, and then the second animal invertebrates is with the leg. Okay, can you understand here? This is what we call by common and different characteristic. Physical characteristic. For example, how many legs they are. Okay, we can classify the animal into that particular characteristic. Okay, invertebrate, the first one, invertebrate, can be further divided by two. Number one, without leg, and number two is with the leg. Okay, without leg, we can further classify it with two characteristics: without segmented body and with segmented body. And after this, we're going to look what is the meaning by segmented body, and then with or without segmented body. Okay, can you understand this? And then for the second characteristic in invertebrates is the with leg. The characteristic with leg, all right, you can further divide it into what we call 3 pair of legs or more than 3 pair of legs. This is based on the observation, based on your observation, based on our observation on what type of animal, depend on its characteristic. Okay, for example, with leg or without leg, and then if the animal with leg, how many legs there are, the number of legs. So this is what we call classification of organism. So first one is invertebrates, right? Okay, so we go one by one. What is the invertebrates without the leg? Without the leg, okay? You still remember? Invertebrates without leg, we can further divide it by two. Without segmented body, and then another one with segmented body. So, without leg and without segmented body. So you need to understand, or you need to what we call identify several type of animal here. Okay. So what are the animal? Number one is sponge. Okay. Sea anemone, coral, planaria, and snail. Okay, these are the several organisms that we classify as invertebrate without legs and without segmented body. Without leg and without leg, and then without segmented body. These are the type or the example of animal. Okay. So next one. What is the invertebrate with segmented body? Okay, still in the leg or without leg here? Still in the invertebrate without leg, without segmented, without leg, but has segmented body. Okay, without leg, and then we have segmented body. So what is segmented body? Okay, as you can see here, the explanation of segmented body mean, okay, here, segmented body is the division of animal body into several segments. Okay, this is what mean by segmented body. If you can see here, the example of animals, snail, planaria, coral, sea anemone, and sponge, there is no segmented body. Okay, their body is not divided into segment. Okay, this is other different between segmented and without segmented body. So the example of organism or invertebrate without leg and has segmented body, number one is tapeworm. Can you see here? Can you see it's different? This is one segment. This is one segment. This is for the tapeworm. This is another segment. This is another segment. And through all the body of the tapeworm, we have segmented body, meaning that it can be what we call separated into segment. This is what we call by segmented body. Okay, in invertebrate, remember, without leg and segmented body, right? So what the other organism without leg? Invertebrate, without backbone, invertebrate, without leg and without without leg and with segmented body. Second organism you need to remember is earthworm and then leech. You can see here, this is other segment for the earthworm. We can see here very small fragment or the segment of the worm. Okay, can you understand this? Can you understand the first type of invertebrate? Okay, okay, very good. Enzying. Okay, good, very good, nice. Okay, so the second invertebrate is with the leg. Dia jelly. Okay, good. Wei Xiang. Okay, nice. Right, I continue. Yeah, I will continue. So the second type of invertebrate is with leg. Okay, with leg. And then we can further divide it into the characteristic is the 3 pair of leg, or what's another one? More than 3 pairs of leg. Okay. In form 2, you just need to remember this. Actually, there are many other characteristics. If you want to classify the animal correctly, because there are thousands of species, right? There are thousands and thousands, if not millions of species in the earth. If you want to classify the if you want to classify or group the organism based on this character only, there will be so many. There are so many things that need to be observed in order to classify. But in form 2, you just remember this only, right? Okay. Invertebrate with leg. What is the characteristic of invertebrate with leg? They have segmented bodies and then have hard outer shells. We call it exoskeleton. Okay, and then usually this is in the insect kingdom. Yeah, dalam apa ini? Dalam kumpulan serangga, insects. Okay, invertebrate with leg. Okay, number one, what is the characteristic you observe? 3 pair of leg, for example, of organism, ant, butterfly, and cockroach. How many legs? 3 pairs, meaning that it has about 6 legs altogether. Okay, for example, ant here, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, and 6. 6 legs. 6 legs altogether. Okay, and then butterfly also will have 3 pair of legs or 6 legs, and then cockroach also has 3 pairs of legs here. Okay, so next one. So this is also under invertebrate. Invertebrate with leg, but more than 3 pair of legs. So what are the example of organism? Spider, horseshoe crab, prawn, centipede, and scorpion. Okay, these are all the type or the example of animal with no backbone. We call it invertebrates. Yeah, no backbone, invertebrates. And then they has with leg, but more than 3 pair of legs. For example, here spider here got 8 legs, right? Number 1, second leg, third leg, leg number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? These are the animal, or the example of animal that has more than 3 pairs of leg. Okay. Okay, finish invertebrate. Can you understand this? Okay, you just remember here, you just remember the classification. This is what we call the classification of invertebrate here again. All right, invertebrate we can further classify or further divide it into 2 categories, without legs and with leg. Okay, sorry, without leg and with leg. And then for without leg, we can further divide it into without segmented body and then with segmented body. Whereas for with leg, you can classify into 3 organisms with 3 pairs of legs, or the organism that has more than 3 pair of legs. And then the example of organism, yeah, the type or the name of the organism associate with all this what we call classification here. Okay, that's all for invertebrate. Very easy, finished already, right? So we continue to vertebrates. Okay, are you still there? Sorry, I got I need to go out for a while. Okay, so the second type of classification in animal is vertebrates. This is vertebrate. So as I'm tell you earlier, vertebrate are the animal with backbone. Okay, animal with the backbone. So the example of animal here is can be further classified into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 category or classification. Number 1 is what? This one you must remember. Okay. Number 1 is fish, amphibian, reptiles, birds, and mammal. There are 5 category or the classification of vertebrate. So we go one by one. So the first category invertebrate is the fish. All right. Fish. And then you need to identify what we call and then understand the characteristic of fish. Okay, we go one by one. Fish, number 1, the first characteristic of fish is it is a poikilothermic. Okay, what is poikilothermic? Okay, poikilothermic, you just remember it is cold-blooded. Okay, cool-blooded organism, meaning that it has a body temperature. You can see here, it has a body temperature that change according to the surrounding temperature. So this is what we call by poikilothermic. Okay, the body temperature inside the temperature of the body inside the fish is can be adapted or can be changes by the surrounding temperature. Okay, meaning that if the outside of the because fish live in the water. Surrounding the surrounding of the water is colder, right? The temperature is very low, so the body of the fish also change according to the temperature outside their body. This is what we call a poikilothermic. Make sure you understand this, or we call it cold-blooded. Cold-blooded. All right. So the number one, the second characteristic, it has covered in hard and slimy scales. So what is the scale? Okay, scale is, in Malay we call it the sisik dia. In the fish you can see here, if I can draw the some here, this is the scale of the fish. Okay, maybe if you are in the drawing the fish, there are the scale here. This is other scale. This is example of the slimy, what you call a slimy scales on the at the on the the body of the fish. And then what's mean by slimy? Slimy mean it is very um slimy mean what? Dia licin ya, dia licin. Okay, very smooth and very slimy scale. Right? So the next one is it has fin and tail. So this is the fin. Where is the fin? So this is the fin. This is the tail. This is tail. And then this is the fin. So this is the tail and then the fin. And then next one, the next characteristic is breathe through the gills here. Okay, not through the lung, but through the gills. Gills is about right here. Okay, there is a gills here. For example, right? This is what we call a gills. Okay. Next one, how it reproduce? Okay, it reproduce by lay eggs and then undergo external fertilization. You still remember? In Form 1, you already learned about fertilization. External fertilization meaning the sperm from the male and then the ovum from the female fertilize inside the body or outside the body. You still remember external fertilization? You still remember this? Meaning that Ying Tong, Liao Ying Tong, yes, it is fertilized outside the body. Eng Zi Ying, very good, outside the body. So fish reproduce by external fertilization. Okay. Can we continue? Okay, example of fish, I do not need to explain to you lah. Clownfish, eel, and then groupers, and then many other type of fish. Okay, so we continue with the second vertebrates. All right, the second vertebrate is what we call an amphibian. Okay, what are the characteristic of the amphibian? It is what we call poikilothermics. You still remember what is poikilothermics? Okay, meaning that it is cool-blooded, right? Number two, it lives on land and in water, meaning it can live in both. Okay, it also lives in the land and then also can live in the water. Okay, number three, covered with a moist skin. Number four, young amphibian breathe through gills. Okay, when the amphibian, when a young amphibian, meaning that just when it is born, it is breathed through the gills, and then when it is become adult, it will breathe through the lung. Okay. Next one, adult amphibian breathe using their lung and moist skin. Next one, it will produce jelly-like egg without a shell and then undergo external fertilization. Okay, what are the example of animal here? The example of animal is, number one is salamander, right? Toad. The tadpole is the younger version of the amphibian, the younger version of the frog or the toad here. Okay, and then the frog here. This is all what we call an amphibian. Okay, next one. The third category, the third classification for vertebrate is reptiles. Okay, reptiles. Is the animal with following characteristic? Okay, number one, still poikilothermic. Number two, produce egg with shell. Number two, produce egg. Number three, breathe through lungs. And then it has scale and hard skin. And then it undergo internal fertilization. Okay, internal fertilization. Example of animal here is iguana. Okay, turtle, snake, and crocodile. These are all type of what we call reptile. The common animal in reptile: iguana, crocodile, snake, and turtle. Okay. Okay. Last. Sorry. Wait is there? Okay. This is number 4. The category or the classification of vertebrate number 4 is the birds. Right. Birds here, it is homeothermic. What is a homeothermic? Homeothermic is an opposite of poikilothermic. Yes, it is what we call a warm-blooded organism. Okay, meaning that no matter what is the temperature outside the body, the temperature outside the body may be too cold or too hot, but the internal temperature of the organism maintain the same. Okay, this is what we call by homeothermic, or we call it warm-blooded animal organism. Okay, homeothermic. Okay, poikilothermics, meaning that the temperature of the body, the temperature of the organism of the body will also change according to the surrounding. If the outside surrounding is cold, then the inside body also cold. Okay, that is poikilothermics. Okay, but homeothermics, meaning that it will maintain the temperature of the body no matter how cold or no matter how hot the temperature outside the body. Right? And this is what we call by homeothermics. Okay, so what are the second characteristic of bird? Covered with feathers. Okay, it will cover with feathers to maintain body temperature. Why they need to maintain the body temperature? Because it is a homeothermic organism. Okay. Number 3, breathe through lung. Number 4, have wing and then help bird to fly. And then next one, have pair of scaly feet. Okay, scaly feet. And then it will undergo internal fertilization, and then it will produce egg with the hard shell. Okay, these are the characteristics you need to understand about the number 4 vertebrates, that is the birds, right? Okay, next one. The last characteristic, the last classification of vertebrate is mammals. I'm sorry, maybe you cannot see it, maybe got some error with the textbook here. Okay, never mind. You just jump to the characteristic. Number 1, it is homeothermic, meaning that it is warm-blooded, and then it will cover with fur and hair. Okay, I just write it here only. It is homeothermic. Okay, number 1. And then number 2, it cover with what? It will cover with fur. Either cover with fur or skin. This is the characteristic of mammals here. And then next one, it breathes through the lung. Okay, it breathes through the lung. And then next one, what are the characteristics for the next one? Undergo internal fertilization. and then it will give birth and nurse them their young. Okay, it will give birth to the offspring. Okay, these are the what we call the characteristic under vertebrates that we call mammal, right? Okay, example of animal in mammal. Number one, bats, giraffe, elephant, lion, and then most of the bigger animal is under the category of with mammals vertebrate. Okay, these are, we call it mammal. Okay, any question before we continue? I think I want to finish chapter 1 for today lah. Any other question? Okay, no, biar jiali. Okay, no problem, Yintong, thank you. Okay, right. So now it's 11:04. Okay, I think we can manage to finish chapter 1, yeah? Right. So second topic for the chapter, second topic for the subtopic 1.2 is the classification of plant. Okay. Classification of plant. Remember, in biodiversity, we can divide it into two, all right? Two organisms. One is animal and one is plant. Human, we are not considered as what we call the biodiversity lah, because we are on the top of the food chain or on the top of what we call of the organism in the earth. Okay, we are talking about biodiversity, meaning that plant, animal, and plant. And then in the first topic for today, we already covered the classification in animal. Make sure you remember the classification, yeah? Invertebrates, what is invertebrates? And then the second one is vertebrates. And then what we call the further classification of invertebrates and then vertebrates. Okay? I need you to understand this before you try to memorize the terms and all of that, right? So the second classification is the classification of plant. Very simple. We can further divide it by two. One is flowering, and then the another one is non-flowering plant. Okay, non-flowering plant and then flowering plant. Yang ada bunga dan tidak ada bunga. Okay, that's all informed you need to know plant. Satu yang berbunga, got flower, and then another one is without the flower, or we call it non-flowering plant. Okay, we take a look at the first classification of plant, that is non-flowering plant. What are the example? The example is consists of what we call moss, fern, and conifer. Moss, fern, and conifer. Okay, these are the example of plant with what we call non-flowering plant. Okay, so we look at the characteristic of each what we call a non-flowering plant for moss. Yeah, moss reproduce by producing spore, and it has non-vascular. Yes. Can you turn on the mic, Stephen? I can hear you. Can you turn off the microphone, Stephen? Okay, very good, thank you. Right. So for moss, reproduce by producing spore, and it has non-vascular. Non-vascular mean here, if you remember, usually the plant has the stem, right? Dia ada batang dia ada kayu dia. So that is what we mean by vascular. Non-vascular meaning that the plant has no stem. Okay, you still remember? Usually in one plant we have leaf, and then we have root, and then we have the stem in the middle. So non-vascular mean here it do not have any what we call the hard parts or the wooden parts of the plant. Okay, the stem, it do not have any stem. Okay, so next one is the fern, also reproduce by producing spore, and then it has vascular. Okay, and then how about conifer? Reproduce by bearing cones, and then it has vascular. Okay, right. So next one is flowering plant. Flowering plant, for example here, what we call it flowering plant because it has what? It has fruit that contain seed. If you still remember in Form 1, we learned about the reproduction in plant, right? Okay, from the flower, and then it will become the, after fertilization, after pollination, it will become fruit, and then inside the fruit we contain the seed, and then the seed will produce another offspring or another new organism. You still remember this? Okay, so each seed has a cotyledon, which is stored food used by the seed to germinate. I think we also still already learned about cotyledon inside the seed, inside the seed. And then a seed which one cotyledon is called monocotyledon, and then a pair of cotyledon we call it dicotyledon. Okay, what is cotyledon? Cotyledon is the parts of the seed that store food used to seed to germinate. Okay, if you still remember, you go back if you want to further remember what is cotyledon and then what is the flowering plant, you go back to chapter number 4, if I'm not mistaken, reproduction in plant. Okay, we learn about the pollination, right, from the flower, and then it will become the fruit. We go later. Okay, example of the flowering plant is paddy plant, orchid, lotus plant, and sunflower plant. Okay, any plant that has flower, we categorize or we classify it into flowering plant, right? Okay, next one. What is the difference between mono mean one, okay, mono mean one cotyledon, it has only one cotyledon, and dicotyledon, we call it has two cotyledon. Okay, so what's the difference? One cotyledon is right here. You can see the picture here, and then the two cotyledon, we have two cotyledon here, right? They can be separated by two. This is two cotyledon. Okay, how about the roots? Roots for monocotyledon, it has fibrous root, and then root for the dicotyledon, we have tap root. These are the type of root. Later I will show you what is the tap root, and then what is the fibrous root. And then how about the leaf? These are all the characteristic, the physical characteristic of the plant here. Okay, how about the leaf for monocotyledon? Leaf with parallel vein in monocotyledon, and then for dicotyledon, network-like vein for the leaf. Okay, so how about the stem? Stem is the what I said earlier, the hard parts or the wooden parts of the plant. Okay, for monocotyledon, it doesn't have stem, or most have non-woody. We call it non-woody. Okay, and then for dicotyledon, usually it has wooden or woody stem. Kayu dia macam kayu yang keras itu, dia ada untuk dicotyledon. Okay, example of monocotyledon, paddy and maize plant, and then for dicotyledon, tomato plant, durian tree is dicotyledon. Okay, you can see the picture here. These are the characteristics, and then this type of question may be very popular when asked you during the examination. Parallel vein, this is parallel vein. You can see the leaf here got parallel vein, one way. Okay, so we can categorize the plant on your left is what? Dicotyledon or monocotyledon? The plant on your right, on your left here, it has parallel vein and it has fibrous root. This is you can classify it into mono or dicot. Monocot or dicot. Sometimes we call it monocot and dicot. Okay, plant on our left is the monocot or monocotyledon. This is plant for the right, and then for dicotyledon here is the plant on your right. This is what we call by network-like vein here. It has network vein. You can see here the different. This is what we call a network vein. Okay, and then this is parallel. Parallel mean only one way lah. You can see here parallel vein. All right. So this is a monocot or monocotyledon plant, and then this is dicotyledon plant. Okay, and then how about the taproot? This is fibrous root. Fibrous is just like this. If you can draw it here, this is just a fibrous root. And then taproot, taproot just very what we call strong, what we call root at the middle, and then it has little root coming from the bigger root here. This is what we call a taproot. Okay, usually taproot is more stronger than fibrous root, and then it can go more deeper to the ground if taproot. But fibrous root not very deep. You can pull the plant very easy because it only has fibrous root. But taproot maybe a little bit harder for you to pull the plant out from the ground. Okay. So also, if you can see here, we categorize or we classify the plant according to their characteristic. What we see, the different, by our observation, we can classify it into many category. Okay, any problem? Monocot and dicot? Any problem here? So make sure you understand, make sure you can compare and contrast or differentiate the many category or many characteristic of the plant here. Okay, you mainly this one lah, this one, the difference in monocot and dicot. So what are the similarity monocot and dicot? If I ask you, what is the similarity between monocot and dicot? Monocotyledon and dicotyledon. What are the similarity? Apa yang sama? Flowering plant. Very good, Yao Yingtung. Yes, the similarity is it is from the classification of flowering plant. And then what are the different? Different this one lah. Number of cotyledon, the stem, the leaf, the root, and the example of the plant itself. All right. Okay. And then for non-flowering plant, just this one only, non-flowering plant, moss, fern, and conifer here. Okay, good. So next one. Constructing a dichotomous key. Okay, this one, I will give the explanation later. Okay, and then I need you to do the sum of project lah, not project lah, assignment for this. So what is dichotomous key? I'm usually do this in the lab, but never mind. I will try to find out the way how do we want to construct the dichotomous key. Okay, actually, what is the dichotomous key? The dichotomous key here is a method. You just remember, it's the method to identify and classify organisms systematically. Okay, based on our observation. We observe an animal. We observe maybe we try to observe many type of animal, and then based on their characteristic, we want to classify the organism. Okay, we want to put that organism into what category? This is what we call by dichotomous key. Okay. Okay, let's look at the example. Okay, you can see here. Later, I will give you assignment here. So this is just an example first. Okay, how many organisms we have here? We have fish, pomfret here. We have chicken. There are 1, 2, 3. We have 5 organisms here. Pomfret, we have chicken, lion, frog, and snake. We have 5 different animals that we did not categorize yet. Okay, we did not do any classification. So how we need to classify the animal? By using dichotomous key. Okay, this is the as simple as dichotomous key as we can learn. Okay, example here. Okay, number one, key number one, poikilothermics and homeothermics. Okay, the key number one asks you whether it is poikilothermics or homeothermics. Okay, we look at the species number one. Okay, for example, we look at the first species here, the first animal here, and then we look at their dichotomous key. Okay, one by one, one by one. Okay. Key number one, the key number one here asks you whether it is poikilothermics or homeothermics. Poikilothermics or homeothermics. Okay, anybody can tell me, for the first species here, pomfret here, this is the first species here, poikilo or homeothermics? Okay, just the first species only, the pomfret only. Okay, who you, Liao Yingtung? Okay, you know that fish or pomfret is poikilothermic. Ziying. Okay, correct. Poikilothermics, right? So we choose poikilothermics, and then what we need to go? What we need to do? You go to key number two. Okay, key number two. Right? So you go to key number two, and then it will ask you, give you an option also. Okay, whether A, scaly skin or non-scaly skin. Okay, go to number two, right? You choose poikilothermic, yes, and then you choose poikilothermics, and then the instruction for you to go to number two. Okay, and then you go to number two, it gives you another option, scaly skin or non-scaly skin. What are the options here? 2A or 2B? Ngoi huyu. Okay, very good. It is a scaly skin, yeah? So you choose scaly skin. How you know it is scaly skin? How do you know it is the scaly skin? Okay, we know it is scaly skin by our observation. Maybe we can take the fish and then we can touch the fish. We can see, or we can find out that the fish is scaly skin. This is how we do it. All right. So scaly skin, you go to number 4. You go to the key number 4. Okay. Just skip number 3 and then go to number 4. And then it will ask you again, it has fin or does not have fin. Okay, so you go back to the species. So it is got the fin here, right? Got the fin here. So 4A or 4B does not have fin or has fin. Of course, it has fin. Yes, Ziying, very good. It has fin, so it is a pomfret. Okay, it is a pomfret here. Okay, these are the examples of what we call the dichotomous key. All right, so later maybe I will prepare you another set of assignment according to the species here. Then you need to decide. You need to decide what these organisms are according to the dichotomous key. Maybe later on, right? So first, I need you to understand how to use it. Do you understand how to use it? Do you understand how to use the dichotomous key? Okay, but never mind. If you have any question later on, after this, you can ask me, right? Okay. The same things goes to the dichotomous key in plant. Same things only. All right, we have non-flowering or flowering, non-vascular or vascular, mono or dicot, and then based on the characteristic of the species, we can classify it by using the dichotomous key. Right? Okay. Any question? No, huh? Okay, very good. So, like usual, okay, very good, very good. Okay. Like usual, you need to, the homework for today, you need to finish the formative practice 1.2 into your exercise book. Right? And then you continue on your workbook. You can finish your workbook until page 9. Okay, so today we already finished the chapter 1, the first chapter for form 2. All right, and then you can finish until chapter 9. Sorry, until page 9 on your workbook. Okay, until page 9 on your workbook. Is it okay? And then our next class is on what? Our next class is on, also forgot, Friday. Yeah, okay, Friday. If you have any question about the workbook or the exercise, you can ask me on Friday. Okay, and then we will start our next class. We will start our next chapter next week. Okay, is it okay? So this Friday, our next meeting, we're going to discuss if you have any question, if you have any what we call confusion about the exercise on your workbook or on your textbook, we discuss on this Friday. Is it okay? Discussion on Friday. I will start chapter 2 next week. Yeah, next week we will start the second chapter of Science in Form 2. Okay, very good. Any question you can ask me later. So now it's 11:26 a.m. So we stop here. Okay, make sure everyone is here. 47. Wow, so many. 47 students. Wow, 47, 44. Never mind. So I need to take the screenshot first. Wait, I waited. Wait. Do not leave again. Do not leave yet. I want to take the screenshot first. I need to take the screenshot because this is what your attendance 47. Oh, okay, very good. Another one. All right. Okay. So now it's 11:27. So I think that's it for now, for today. And then we see you next Friday. And thank you for your cooperation. You can leave the class now. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you all for your cooperation.